Now, there are a few things that we can do to kind of improve and make use of the AOVs that we actually exported. So one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the specular of the particles on this render. So I'll create a shuffle again. I'm hitting tab to type whatever I need, and then I create it. So this shuffle, I'm going to connect either A or B, and I want to get the specular particles, which is this. And I want to be able to add this, an extra bunch of this Shift X to what I currently have. Let's have a look. Make sure this is set to plus. And if we enable and disable C, we have a lot more intensity on those reflections, or in this case, on the specular of this element. Okay, so I'm going to keep it like this. On the sparks, we already have this extra pass being added. The area that's going to need, where I'm going to be spending a bit more time, is on the blast. Okay, the blast is looking good, but I want to see if we can make it better. And one thing I want to do is I want to grab the information of the alpha. If you hover over the viewer and press A, you can switch to the alpha. And we have an interesting level of gradient variation here. And I want to use that. So what I'll do, I'll create a shuffle. And on this shuffle, I just want to grab the alpha channel. So now I have the alpha channel on the RGB. And I want to color grade it. So I'll hit tab, type grade, and I'll grade this to increase contrast. So I'm just going to play with the gamma. Let's have a look at this. Pressing 2. And let's move gamma down until we have a lot of contrast. One thing it's important is clamp black and clamp white. Make sure this is just, because we're just going to be using this as a mask, so we can just clamp it. And I'm going to keep bringing this down. I really just want to grab the brighter areas. Yeah, something like this. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I want to apply a grade to the particles as well. So let's create another grade. And this grade, I'm going to hit Alt Control, put it here. I'm going to connect this to this mask. And this grade, I'm going to tell it that don't use the alpha, use the red channel, because this is just grayscale, so all channels will have this information. So red, green, or blue, doesn't matter. And what I want to do, let's have a look at the final result. What I want to do is on this grade, I want to make sure that the areas where the alpha is more intense, I want it to have a bit more intensity as well. So let's go with 1.5. And you can clearly see the difference already, but I want to make this difference more clearer. The render that we have on the particle blast will easily become very continuous, very uniform. There are some big areas that have the same pixel value and the same color, so they don't read as three-dimensional. They lose a bit of depth. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to do a color correction here. I'm going to put it here. And on this color correction, what I'll do is I'll bring saturation down 0.65. I'll bring gamma down as well, 0.8. And I'll also bring the gain down, 0.8. What happens this way is that I'm kind of darkening things, already increasing contrast, and you'll see that it's a huge difference between having these two elements turned off or turned on. Okay, this is becoming too flat, but we can bring back some of that depth by playing with some of these adjustments. Feel free to adjust it as you prefer. But this was the setup that I was going with. So finally, all we need is to write this out. So I'll just type W, and you have to decide where you want to save it. I'm going to save it on this folder, and I'm just going to call this CGC. I was having an issue with the MP4 render, so I'm going to show you the MP4 anyway, but with this format, I was getting a bit of a weird stepping on the rendered MP4 when I open it up on VLC. It's just not playing back with a proper frame rate for some reason. If you switch this to H.265, that works well, that renders well. But if you try any of the H.264, I wasn't having any success. So I'm actually gonna save it out as at a higher quality format. So move, and I'm gonna select the codec Apple ProRes 422, either 422 high quality or 422, it's fine. This is very high quality. The input, I'm gonna say it's opaque. Frame range is everything. Now, one thing you will definitely want to adjust here when you're writing out with this setup with the color transform, because the color transform is already being applied, you need to make sure that this doesn't do anything. So the input color space, you can go straight to utility and just say utility raw on both areas. This file color space doesn't allow you to select immediately. So what I was doing was just typing sRGB, and it tells me it doesn't recognize it. I tell it okay, and now the menu appears and I can go to utility, utility raw, and everything goes back to normal. Natron is completely free, but it does have some instability occasionally, and some weird bugs. At least for me, these are weird bugs that are, we can usually find a way around them, but that can be annoying up to a certain point. So this is ready to go. The other thing we would need to do, so I'm just gonna render this one out, hit render. And for the other cameras, I'm just gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna select all those nodes, Control C, Control V, and just change the input folders to Cam2, Cam3, and the output file name to Cam1 and Cam2, Cam2, and Cam3 as well.